The Islamicist behavior is sickening. And to watch the Islamicists wedded to George Soros and the universities and the modern leftist systems and modern leftist countries and cities, and to watch them allowed to commit unspeakable crimes with wanton abandon, and to see it covered up and protected, and then to see the parallel where illegal aliens can shoot a woman in the back, have been deported 5 times, and the jury virtue signals and doesn't even give the guy manslaughter. Think about that. And you see these cases constantly. You see the case coming up after the break of the Colts, Edwin Jackson, star running back, reportedly killed by an illegal alien, and the media won't even say he's an illegal alien. The Indianapolis Star talked to the police. They know the guy's name. They know how many times he was deported. They know everything. But all the rest of the media can't even get it right. Conservative media, the Washington Times, says he's an illegal alien from Mexico. No, he's from Guatemala. That's why I go to the local paper, because they can get there on the ground and actually check the records, not just make stuff up like national media does so many times. It's really incredible. But NFL.com, ESPN, Huffington Post doesn't even say that the guy was from another country. It says, oh, the Indianapolis man, the Indianan. It's like when you see an Islamicist who just got in the country a month before, runs over 50 people, 100 people, 200 people, up to 300 and something they ran over. It was 100 and whatever killed. And they say, oh, the Frenchman ran them over. The German man ran them over. Yes, the German. Under that political correctness, if I went to China, got in a delivery truck, ran over a couple hundred people, including children, and imagine they'd say on the news, a Chinese man ran, no, it'd be a crazy American, came over to China, stole a delivery truck, and ran over a couple hundred people. It'd be a big novelty. It'd be a big story. You know, like when you get 2 weird, mentally ill Christians, and they've got dozens of children, some 23 years old, living in feces, and it's Christians, 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 homeschoolers, homeschoolers, homeschoolers. You're all guilty. Well, if Christians are all guilty, then we should at least know if it's an illegal alien or a Muslim, shouldn't we? But no, we're going to beat it over your head. So here it is. Without even looking today, there's just stacks of this crud. Paris massacre terrorist complains about Islamophobia, claims Muslims are mistreated. Paul Joseph Watson, Infowars.com. Somewhere, someone is playing the world's smallest violin. Paris massacre terrorist Salah Abd Salam, the man who helped jihadists butcher hundreds of people, is now complaining about Islamophobia. He's on trial for the shootout he and Belgian police officers had after the November 13th, 2015 attack. He is not expected to stand trial for his role in the Paris massacre, including 130 people who were killed and 368 that were injured in the Islamic attack, just like Vegas. The Belgian-born French national Moroccan descent is accused of driving the terrorists to their target locations and helping them manufacture explosives. The 28-year-old said Muslims were judged and treated in the worst ways mercilessly, and said he was placing his trust in Allah before the judge, and he went on into Islamophobia and the rest of it. So there you get it. You know, hey, I only helped kill 130-something people and injured 368, but you know what? You deserve it because you didn't kiss my ass good enough. And let me tell you something, that's all they do in Europe is just run around worshiping hordes of military-age men. I got another article here today. Britain is the destination for Islamicists from all over the world because it has the highest welfare, the most open arms, and lets them have radical imams calling for the overthrow of England. And there's quotes. And now British schools are saying we just may make all the kids wear burqas. Isn't that just darling? Here's another one. More than 5 million third world migrants entered Europe since 2011. Yeah, it's 10 million total. And it goes on. Voice of America. It's just from, people say I'm Russian controlled. Sometimes I link to Russian articles. Well, here's Voice of America we link to. It must be run by the CIA. The latest figures from the European Asylum Office reveal the period between 2011 and 2017, 5,136,000 plus migrants have entered Europe, and they're almost all men. Here's another one. German politicians alarmed at the scale of anti-Christian hate attacks. Attacks on churches and Christian symbols accounted for a quarter of the 97 documented cases, and attacks on Christians have doubled worldwide, even according to the UN, in the last 3 years. Meanwhile, UK-based imam performs Islamic exorcism on screaming burqa-clad woman, spits on her and smashes a table on her head. And then there's this footage. Of women's fight club that they put all over the British news like it's a great thing. And it's a bunch of women screaming like toddlers and rolling around, basically urinating on themselves. And it's advertised as the avant-garde thing to do. And they all about how oppressed they are and how hellish it is. It turns out most of them are filthy rich, triple-barreled, people worth hundreds of millions, running around screaming and bitching. And Paul breaks down who the real feminists are worldwide. We'll play that key report straight ahead and then tie it into how similar it is to the Islamic woman wearing a full beekeeper suit with the worst acting I've ever seen, acting like she's possessed. I'm not saying you can't have real possessed people. I've seen it. It looks like Linda Blair. This lady ain't it. We'll be back. Stay with us. You're looking at an imam on national television. This is broadcast in England. This is very popular. In his little military outfit, with his mind control slave, this woman who has full hoods over her head where you can't even see her eyes. And then he screams at her and spits on her and hits her. And it goes on and on. We'll come back to him spitting on her and hitting her in a moment. But this is the total fruitcake lunacy that is dominant Islam. And you can argue there's been periods in Islam where it was not like this in many areas and was actually quite productive. There were some golden eras. No, this is Orthodox Islam, and they argue that this is their Reformation. Because Christianity had some issues the way it was being played out and used in the Dark Ages to suppress people. So we had a bunch of wars and other things in Europe that killed millions, and that then led to the Reformation. And there were other big wars to exterminate Protestants, and then Protestants would kill Catholics, and on and on and on, to what we have is the Reformed Christian church today that you could argue is a lot more like what Jesus Christ taught. A lot of it's sold out in establishment as well. But if you go back to the Dark Ages, if they caught you gathering herbs because it would make your child not die of the bubonic plague, they would burn you at the stake. Because a man or a woman wasn't supposed to know any knowledge, only the people in the castle. And that's what Islam has turned into, is a total suppression system. And it needs a reformation. And it oppresses its main target, other Muslims, which then governments bring in by the millions and let the Muslims sit on top of as political blocs that will vote 100% as they're told by their imams. That's why the authoritarian left love them so much. And I was covering some of this earlier, but Paris massacre terrorist who helped reportedly kill over 130 people and injured 368 says he's upset about Islamophobia and Muslims being mistreated. And then it continues here. More than 5 million third world immigrants entered Europe since 2011, almost all Muslims. German politicians alarmed at scale of anti-Christian hate attacks. And what I just mentioned from Breitbart, UK-based imam performs Islamic exorcism on screaming burqa-clad woman in Sheffield Mosque. And I saw this. Paul Watson, by the way, is from Sheffield in North England. He lives in London now. And it made me think of Paul's video yesterday that shows what they call Women's Fight Club. The video is a must-see if you're a radio listener. It's posted at Real Alex Jones on Twitter and Prison Planet, Paul Watson's Twitter, and, of course, at newswars.com and infowars.com. And I thought that we would just preface that and then go to the video itself, because the tempered tantrum screeching is much like the bizarre mental illness theatrical display we're seeing from the poor woman that you can bet your bottom dollar has had her genitals cut off. And so Paul, in this important video, breaks down what's really happening here. He breaks down what the real threats are here. And you get around these modern feminist women, they are basket cases who all come from wealthy families, pretty much, who are trying to one-up each other on who can be more bizarre, more crazy, And it's all about not having males around. And so it all has an extreme anti-male, anti-family bent, which, by the way, I have stacks of news articles here today from mainstream news documenting everything I've told you so far. Gender-bending chemicals found in plastic, a link to breast and prostate cancer found in 86% of teenagers' bodies, Daily Mail. Not just a boy and girl, some teens identify as transgender. No children because of climate change. Some people are considering it. New York Times. See? That's the agenda. They're now admitting exactly what I told you. But here's Paul Watson's special report. We'll go to break after that and come back.
This is a space where we can recognize that we're angry.
Oh my God.
We want to destroy the Conservative government. We want to bring down the patriarchy.
So the first rule of Feminist Fight Club is talk about Feminist Fight Club. I mean, isn't it awful how all these bigots stereotype feminists as being fat, angry, ugly misfits? God only knows where they get that idea from.
Before the fight, I always think about how angry I am. I think about the man that catcalled me on the street.
I'm sure you get catcalled all the time, love.
My name is Phoebe Beatty Ferguson, and I founded FemFeral. We fight each other as a mode of resistance to try and channel our energies and our rage.
So you've got a triple-barreled name and you go to a prestigious London university. Yeah, you don't sound very oppressed to me. You sound like another privileged, entitled, inherited wealth snowflake. Let me do a little mansplaining about real feminism. Real feminism is risking arrest and torture for removing your hijab in public. Real feminism is marching in the streets against a theocratic tyranny. Real feminism is strapping on a machine gun to kick some ISIS ass. You, rolling around in a basement in your sweaty underpants while screaming incoherently, that's not real feminism.
When you feel like empowered by the numbers, actually, like, yeah, it feels like you could go out and smash them or something.
Now, like, forgive me for being, like, frank, but, like, the only thing you should be smashing is the Weight Watchers weekly meal plan.
I have experienced, like, moments of a lot of, like, suppression and repression. Or not moments, but, like, a lifetime of that, actually.
That they have been oppressed and are very oppressed.
Really? A lifetime of oppression? You? Really, you? With your plummy accent and your leisure time spent painting your face while rolling around in a cellar in some upper-middle-class hipster enclave, let me do a little mansplaining about real oppression. Real oppression is having your genitals mutilated to fulfill the dictates of a backwards belief system. Real oppression is being subjected to constant death threats for trying to renounce a religion that kills people who try to leave it, and overcoming all this to escape a ghetto in Somalia to become one of the most influential women on the planet. That's real oppression. You being triggered by a Sargon of Akkad video, that's not real oppression.
It's difficult to be, like, sexy in specific spaces without being sexualized.
Yeah, preventing it from becoming sexualized may have been made more difficult by the fact that someone's drawn a giant on the wall. Now, I'm no fan of Theresa May, but if she wants to get re-elected, this should be going in her campaign ad. So you want to fight the patriarchy by removing Britain's first female Prime Minister in 2 decades and replacing her with a man from a party that in its entire history of existence has never had a female leader. A party that organises political meetings where women are segregated to appease an actual patriarchal belief system. That's how you're going to bring down the patriarchy. Somewhere in there we hear a muddled argument about drawing attention to domestic violence, even though every study shows that lesbians are statistically far more likely to be violent than heterosexual couples. Not that I'm saying any of them are lesbians. I mean, is it any wonder that just 7% of people in the UK identify as feminists, when even members of Vice's hardcore audience is saying it's cringy? Chances are it's cringy. How do you think the vast majority of young women are going to react when they watch this? If you really want to bring down the patriarchy, why aren't you encouraging women to get STEM degrees? If you really want to end the oppression of women, why don't you draw attention to countries in the world where women are actually being oppressed. Theresa May and the Tories aren't stoning women to death for violating Sharia law. Theresa May and the Tories aren't passing laws that legalise marital rape. Theresa May and the Tories aren't instructing police to round up women if their headscarf slips.
She broke Islamic dress code.
We live in a world where grid girls are being eliminated, and this is what the